Hello, drunk duckers, and welcome to the Quackcast. This is Quackcast number 650, the Drunk Duck Quackcast. I'm Ozone Ocean, with me is Tarts and Bainzarine. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. That was a long delay, but I had to wait for Chance to say it first.
I'll cut it all out. There won't be any delay.
Cut out the awkwardness.
That's how you will laugh of us, like us the great and powerful.
Yeah.
All right. This is the Today we're talking about fake things that only exist in pop culture because the real versions are often too boring or way too uninteresting. So the pop culture has created their own versions, which are pretty unique in their own right, and just keep on copying each other and repeating this copy. And so everyone believes these things are real, but they're not. They only exist in pop culture. So that's what we're going to talk about. This is based on a thread I had in the forums on Drunkduck, and many people have contributed to it, so we'll sort of talk about that. But before we get into that, I have to bring up the featured comic. Quackcast featured a comic called Into the Bookwoods, and she's going to talk about that now.
Hello, this is Quackcast, and the feature I've selected for this week is Into the Bookwoods by Val Hisser, and it is rated T for teen. The forest is home to a community of woodland creatures who have taken on the qualities of personified human beings while still resembling animals in outward appearance. 3 librarians, Millie the Mouse, Martha the Weasel, and Sylvia the Cat, work at the Forest Public Library, where they help select the best books for hedgehogs, rabbits, and dogs to read. Perils outside the library come in the form of eavesdropping owls swooping in on Millie before a teacup bath and parties with way too much catnip. The creator, depicted as a naked mole rat artist wearing a beret, makes fourth wall breaking cameos, incorporates the main characters into Inktober challenges, and makes interactive paper doll sets for the reader. Learn the backstory of legendary William the Cat and read Into the Bookwoods by Val Hisser, rated T.
Okay, and that was Quackcast talking about Into the Bookwoods, which is a really cool looking comic. Okay, so next up, Gunwaltz has given us a theme song to a comic called Devil's Blood. Devil's Blood. So Devil's Blood is floating angels, golden sun, streaming through white fluffy clouds. The sound of a heavenly choir soars high into the blue gradient of the sky, starting from cerulean to ultramarine and into deep Prussian mixed with black. It winks out with the twinkling stars. So take it away, Gunwallis, with your theme to Devil's Blood. And that was Devil's Blood, which is a comic by Dragon Song 12, and it's rated E for everyone. Okay, so guys, we're chatting about things that exist in pop culture that don't have a realistic version, because the pop culture one has copied from itself so much that it's turned into its own thing that exists separately from the real version, which is pretty cool. There's so many things like that just have their own pop culture thing going, and it's so entrenched, and people think those things are real, and they're quite shocked when they see the actual real versions are actually quite boring and uninteresting. So many things, so many. I did a thread about this in the forums, and it's been very popular. A lot of people contribute. It's mainly me because I'm most interested in it, but some other people did. And okay, I'll start with some of the things. Okay, one of the things that's really common is fights. So fights in movies usually last forever, and people are super careful and do these very clever moves that, knock people down with one blow, or they hit someone and it doesn't affect them, and then they can keep hitting, and it's just massive hits like to the face, whoa, and they come back straight away. So the reality is that fights never look cool, and even when people think that they're seeing a cool fight in MMA or boxing, that's just your brain telling you it's cool because you're really interested in the narrative and you're going for one. You're rooting for this guy, but in reality, it looks terrible. All fights look shit, and they happen really fast. And especially street fights. Now, street fights are the worst thing to see because you really do get injured. Say if you're really close to a street fight, you might think it's looking cool because you're supporting one of the guys. You possibly might be. You might be going, yeah, Dave, yeah, go for it, whatever. And you might think that's cool. But in reality, the further back you get, the more detached you are from a fight. You can see that it's just pathetic. None of it's ever cool. And most of the time, fights consist of people trying to awkwardly grab each other and pull each other down, and it's so embarrassing. So yeah. Fights.
There is like if you've ever seen a street fight, that's like your average street fight. I'm not saying that everything is like that. First of all, they are very shocking. Just because you see two people going at each other, they are not exciting. They are shocking. You freeze, or at least what I have seen is that people sort of like stare, like you look at a train wreck in a sense, but they are not like, oh yeah, let's place our bets, that sort of thing. And that's the one thing. And the other thing is that they are super simple affairs, lots of fists flying repeatedly, like
and
the
not
same
hitting
move.
most of the time. People are missing constantly.
Or they hit at the same spot, like a pistol. If someone finds you like vulnerable, first of all, and you allow a punch or a kick to land, chances are you won't have you will be winded, or you will feel the impact, so you will stay as you are. So the other guy is very likely to keep on coming because they scored a hit and they are going to go for that hit again. If you have noticed, usually it goes a bit like that if someone is good enough to land a punch or a kick. And they get very injured very fast and they don't understand it. And I have seen that as a Red Cross rescuer in like between hooligans. Not very good hooligans, because we live when the efficient hooligans take over. But little young punks basically that are going at each other. You get to see blood super fast. It's amazing. So
Yeah,
and it's not cool.
pretty awful. Fights are, in reality, they're pretty awful. They're not cool. Not like they are the bar fights in Roadhouse and all this kind of stuff. People get
Yeah, no.
thrown through things. Yeah, like glasses. If they smash, they cut you when they hurt. Yeah, they're not something you can do. Another thing is like anytime someone's hit in one of these fights in TV, it's like, ooh, and you get thrown back and do all these like weird things. But in reality, if something hits you, like if someone's hit with a stick or with a punch, if you're getting thrown back, then you're not absorbing any of that. So that's not, if someone flies back from a punch, they're not really being hurt as much. The time people are being hurt is when they're not moving from the punch, when it's like this and it absorbs into them, and when they hit, and that doesn't look very interesting, it doesn't look exciting, but that person is getting all that force and being incredibly injured. So yeah, that's the sad thing about that kind of stuff. The violence does not look cool, and that person is really being injured. So yeah, they're pretty horrible things in reality. Versus the fun bit.
And a kick to the head might be fatal. Just one kick.
Oh, just one punch too.
Yeah, absolutely. But especially like they show, they land the kick to the head like a spinning kick as well, which is doubly powerful. And the other guy just goes like, and he shakes it off.
But heals them, straight away.
Or they have like a very small little rivulet, like a little trickle of blood at the edge of the mouth, just a little bit, and that's all they have. It's like, no, you should be looking for your teeth, my dude. So, yeah.
So that was one thing that I hated, because I used to fight a lot when I was a kid, and every freaking time you get punched in the face, you bleed from your lip because your teeth cut your freaking lips, and then it swells. It's terrible. You can't.
Thank you. I also used to fight a lot as a kid, and the major priority I had was to just avoid any hits to the face so that I could deny I was in a fight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they easily, you bruise up very easily as well on the face. So.
Yeah, it's awful. I never got a black eye though from a fight. I don't think I've had black eyes, but not from fights. So, yeah.
I have had a black eye from an accident, in the sense that it could have been from a fight, but it was really a very stupid accident. It was not a fight, but I took an elbow to my eye socket.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, I basically face planted on guy's elbow, trying to be clever in the sea. So, yeah. Unfortunately, we were not submerged that much, so I got the full brunt of gravity. And it's amazing how quickly the lower part of my eye all swelled up and became black, and I really looked like a battered girl, which was terrifying for the poor guy, because he really wasn't even turned towards me.
Oh, that was an accident. Well, yes, fights are pretty horrible things. They're not something that an adult should become involved in unless you're making money from it, pretty much. Or trying to, I don't know, survive in some terrible situation. But yeah, voluntarily you shouldn't get into fights. They're not good. Right. Well, what other fake things that exist in pop culture? Oh yeah, bullet wounds. So this is another fun thing. So in reality, or like, no, not reality. So like in pop culture, bullets are something that if you get shot and you survive the shot, normally that's always the shoulder. Someone gets shot in the shoulder and they survive, and it doesn't injure them at all. They just pull it out, and as long as you pull the bullet out, then the person heals up right away. And or if they're touch and go, as soon as they pull the bullet out, they're going to be fine. They're going to start recovering. And this is even in the most correct sort of things, they do this. And bullets don't work like that. you don't heal up straight away once the bullet is out. It's the path the bullet makes through you that does the injury, not the bullet.
Yeah. And people tend to forget that it's not just the organs and bone that are, again, very important if they get shattered by the bullet and stuff, but you also have nerve damage, you have ligament damage, you have all sorts of damage that cannot heal very well. So just a flesh wound, like the flesh is complicated.
Well, and there's this thing like different bullets do different damage. So submachine gun or a pistol will do different damage from a rifle, will do different damage from an assault rifle. People don't like that term. They say, "Oh, it's assault." Like, assault rifles is a thing because it's an intermediate cartridge between full-powered rifle cartridge and submachine. Bullets. Pistols. Pistols. Which are, the same kind of bullets that submachine guns use. So they have different effects depending on the speed and the size and the power of the cartridge. And they wound differently, they have different effects. And they're designed to have different effects. And there are all different kinds of bullets within those different calibers. Shotguns as well, and they have different sorts of effects. Cannon rounds as well. So we're talking about like 20mm, 30mm. That's going to do very different things to a human body. And, they all handle differently. Scary stuff. It's pretty awful, but pop culture simplifies it down to all being sort of the same thing, and the bullet actually being the problem rather than what it does to you.
Another thing that is a bit of a pet hate for me, like I don't mind it too much, but it can get very annoying, is that a psychologist is basically a clairvoyant savant. Like a psychologist will see through everything by just taking a look at you. Literally, like clairvoyant.
Yes.
Oh, I have seen you for 5 minutes, and now I know how your childhood was like, and what happened to you when you were a baby, and your mom dropped you on your head and stuff. So it doesn't work this way. The thing is, and like especially with profilers and stuff, they show like the profiler sees a very tiny little thing and then gets like vomits out this full profile of what the killer should be, and it is like fully accurate. It doesn't work this way. You can get to a point where you really do narrow down, for example, a profile of a killer, and there are certain indications and stuff, but it is a composite of a lot of things. It takes a lot of study, and you cannot go in a room, look around, and I have it. I have all I need. Cut, next scene. We are looking for a mail from that. No, doesn't work.
Looking for a male. He's a Taurus.
Yes.
28.
He hates the color red. And he's
white
allergic to
Corolla.
nuts.
Yeah, they really get carried away with this. I mean, say on that subject, I don't know if this is so much in pop culture, but I think it is. They have the people who reconstruct, and oh my god, there's so much about police procedure and stuff like this that I know a little bit about that is totally fake, but people in reality think is real. Even some police people, and Police are often morons, and they get fooled by crap like, there's been psychic like tips for crimes, and police have taken that seriously. Sometimes that's a good idea, because maybe the psychic person sometimes might be in on it, So, but there's the thing like okay, so if you dig up a dead person's skull and you do a reconstruction of it by putting the thickness of clay, you can actually create a realistic version of that person when they're alive. No, that's freaking impossible. But people believe this, and they think that, you know, these facial reconstructions are accurate. This gives you a super stylized, super perfect version of what the face could look like on the skull, but it could be totally freaking different. Noses do not automatically... You can't know what a nose is going to look like from just what, you know, you've got on a skull here, because genetics are... Skulls do not reflect what shape the nose is only to a certain degree, and lip shape and eye shape and all this kind of stuff. So no, those reconstructions are total freaking nonsense, and I hate that people think those are real. And there's polygraph tests. Do not tell if someone's lying. This again is a fiction.
They are not even admissible in court, polygraph tests. And I want to add about the whole psychology thing, that the ironic element in this is that there is a part of our science that can sort of appear to be a bit clairvoyanty, like sort of quasi magic to someone that is not trained to do it, and that is the part where we do what we call content analysis. And content analysis is the analysis of how a person speaks and how they place importance in the content of their words, and how they present, like the way that we subconsciously choose to express certain ideas, especially when we are under emotional charge or very relaxed, or, you know, it depends on context. It reveals a lot about the person, and that is something that is evidence-based, and you get trained to do it. So you can hear in real life a psychologist that is not very experienced to just blurt out like, okay, you are experiencing this. This is not the correct way to do it, because usually you want to coax the person to realize on their own that they are experiencing a certain thing. You don't just tell them, because you will get denial, basically. But anyway, that's another thing. However, when this happens, and for example, a psychologist is to tell a detective, like, okay, this dude is feeling this or experiencing that, or, you know, whatever that comes from the way that they talk and they interact and they chat and whatever, chances are the detective is going to blow them off and not take that into consideration, because it appears to a lay person that you go from point A to point Z.
Yeah.
Whereas we can see the path of why you went there. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay, it's very abstract.
It's not very abstract. Like, for example, I could okay, let's not get too much into that. But if I say a backhanded compliment to someone instead of an outright compliment to someone, there is indication that this person either is recalcitrant in giving compliments in general, or has a grudge or some kind of negativity towards the person that they are giving the compliment to. So you get keyed into that, and you listen to the rest to fill in the picture. It's like a puzzle. So that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so there is some truth to your psychic analysis of the way a person acts. Although they do have things that they exaggerate that in film and TV, like handwriting analysis.
No.
Massively exaggerate that.
Nobody does that.
They say, oh yes, this obviously it's the same person's handwriting, And then they go even further into it and say, yeah, this person has this character trait and that character trait, and based on their
Okay,
handwriting.
they do compare, and there is some level of like validity to comparing handwriting and being able to tell if they came from the same person, but not a personality thing.
Yeah.
You cannot tell, oh, you loop your L's, that makes you whatever. I don't know what they
You
say.
sick, disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, oh, you're a narcissist because you have a very curly QT. How dare you? You know, it doesn't work that way. But yeah, that's very much a myth.
taken really wildly out of
Mhm.
into realms of fantasy, as all these things are that we're talking about. Let's see, what else? Okay, so there's the trait in film of people carrying swords on their back and drawing from the back.
Mhm.
This is something that any person who's ever used a sword will tell you that's totally fiction. Actually, people never did that in history, in reality, because swords are too long to draw. If you're using a sword for a fight, it's always too long. Your arm isn't long enough to be able to do that. I mean, I've got this sword here, cavalry sword, so it's fairly long. But yeah, you can't actually. It's as far as you can. You never get it out. So yeah, it's based on fiction. So the only real examples we have of the whole sword on the back are some prints of samurai Ronin carrying a sword on their back, but it's pretty much it's like assumed they're doing that as a way of carrying it, like transport, not for use, because typically samurais always have their swords in their waistband, and that's how they draw them out. That was like a traditional thing. So yeah, but it's become in fantasy, every freaking place you have them drawing swords from their back. You know, The Witcher famously has these great big swords in his back sheath, and you can't actually draw them. His arms would have to be a foot longer than a normal human arm. You have to have orangutan arms in order to be able to pull those out. So yeah, sorry, that's a fake thing.
Leonardo the Turtle.
Yes.
Is it Leonardo with the swords? Yeah.
I think it is. He's got the two swords, although they're pretty short. The shorter these swords are, the more likely you are able to do it. But
right.
Yeah. It's an uncomfortable. It's a weird thing, because even if you could draw it out, it's like it looks cool, but it's just not a thing. We don't know where it came from. It probably popped up in as in a samurai film as a fun thing, and then people copied it. Oh, like the blood thing. Okay, so people produce way too much blood in films, especially samurai films. It just goes, and among anime, it just goes, and apparently this came from a samurai film where the guy was going to be cut through the neck in this exciting scene, and it was meant to just go and have a slow leak of blood, but there was too much pressure in the hose, and when the guy did the cut, the hose just splurted all the blood just all in one go, just went this huge big splurt fire hose, and it was an accident. They didn't have enough blood to be able to do a second take, so that's what they had, because that was just all wasted, and they just had to use it, and people thought, oh wow, that looks so cool, and it's been used over and over and over again, and this has appeared like in so many animes, and Tarantino's copied it, and everyone's copied it, and it's just become how it is in film. So everybody has a bathtub full of blood.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Like, starts as a mistake, and then it's the rule of cool, and then it's just accepted as reality, which I guess is the whole point of this episode.
Yeah, that's how it is. All these things, they're the rule of cool. That's why they happen. Cowboys fanning guns. They draw it and they go like this.
Yeah.
You can do that. You can quickly fire a lot of shots. But apparently no cowboy who ever did that ever lived because it's super inaccurate and they tend to die. And that's written by Wyatt Earp, I think. I think it was Wyatt Earp, yeah, the famous lawman who was involved in the OK Corral shootout and a lot of other shootouts as well. He wrote extensively on this, and he knew a lot of those people in reality, the famous gunfighters, and he said, yeah, no one who ever did that lived. It's
really
great.
interesting.
Yeah. He said the only way you can actually be involved in a gunfight and win is if you take your time. And he means not like, if you slowly draw your gun, but if you aim your gun and fire it, as quickly as possible, but as accurately as possible, then you're going to live. And the other person's going to die because, yeah, you're not just firing wildly. So, yeah, that's a thing.
Makes me wonder if there's a filmic version of Wyatt Earp fanning his gun. How ironic would that be?
Probably many, yes.
Probably there are, yeah. Oh, speaking of guns, holding the gun to the side as you aim, like not properly, proper way up, but like on its side.
Yeah,
like
the gangster way of doing it.
Yeah,
Pew,
which is
pew,
apparently
pew.
notoriously like guaranteed to make you miss. Apparently.
Well, you can hit if you're close enough, because then you don't have
you
to
look
aim
close.
anyway. But yeah, if you're at any distance, the sights are going to be useless because the sights only work if they're on the top of the gun, not underneath or on the side or diagonal or whatever. That's the whole point of them, is to gauge distance like that. So yeah, that's a good point.
Mhm.
Side aiming is silly.
Explosions that you walk slowly away from. Very like big, super cool as the explosion happens behind you and you just slow-mo your way away from it.
Yes, very difficult to do, I imagine. Very difficult. Explosions are a weird thing, yeah. So the fake version of explosions in film is always huge fireball, like fire rolling away, and they're really slow too. It's always fire. But explosions, especially military explosions, don't produce almost any fire at all. The fire's just a flash. It's all dust and smoke, because the fire, unless it's like an incendiary explosion. Okay, so if the point of the explosion is to burn things, which is a modern thing. I mean, we used to have flamethrowers that would burn stuff. These days we have incendiary rounds, like incendiary missiles or incendiary grenades and stuff like that. But those aren't typical, and you're not going to use those to blow something up. You're going to use those to burn. Anyway, so that's a digression. So most missiles and bombs and stuff like that just produce dust and smoke. So they don't do the rolling, flames and all that kind of thing. They're very quick. The shockwave of an explosion is not usually enough to push a person away, and they always do this. The person's always sent flying. What usually happens is you'll be busted up into pieces if you're close enough. That's what the shockwave will do to you. If you're far enough away from the explosion, you can get blown a bit, though you'll suffer injury from that, and often your clothes will be blown off. That's another weird thing. Your trousers or your shirt, your underpants, those things can get blown off, and your shoes. So you'll be left naked by an explosion. That happens. So there's a bunch of interesting things about explosions.
Yeah. And nobody seems to take into account that if you are, for example, firing anything, guns, grenades, even worse, in a closed space, an enclosed space, or close enough to you, your eardrums will get shot blown out, and you will have trouble hearing for a while.
They'll deafen you, yeah. Could be permanent deafness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like bazookas, like grenade launchers. No, not grenades, but bazooka missile launchers, these kind of things. Yeah, you can't fire them from a closed room. You can't fire them from a closed helicopter. You can't fire them from closed anything because it a bunch of the gases that propel this stuff are exhausted out the back in order to diminish the recoil, because you're firing something that's very heavy, and if there wasn't any gas coming out the back, that would blow you off your feet pretty much. So they have to fire stuff out. So if you're in any kind of closed situation, that flame has to go somewhere, and it's going to go all over you. You're going to die, and the people behind you are going to die too. So they're very dangerous to use. Yeah. So all these films where people fire missile launcher from a helicopter. I mean, Jesus Christ. That's bad.
You just owned yourself.
Yeah. Toasty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gun myths. I mean, submachine guns. People will show someone, like spraying a submachine gun from the hip, and you can't hit anything like that ever. The only way you can hit someone with a submachine gun, unless they're super close to you, because you obviously, if they're close enough, you can hit them, is by deploying the shoulder stock, getting it up to your eye, and shooting. And that's what they're for.
Mm-hmm.
Full auto, even when you're doing that full auto, you're unlikely to hit someone, at least for more than 2 or 3 shots.
It should just be for it is meant for suppressive fire more than shooting anyone. But that's not very cool.
Yeah. Obviously, the coolest way to shoot a gun is never to aim it, is to shoot. And you just own everyone through your skills. I mean, you could train yourself in order to shoot from the hip, but in a war situation, that's just not a normal thing.
Also, having and like, don't get me wrong, I love seeing women own their opponents in physical combat, but you cannot match. And that's not just for a woman, even if like a small, a petite, or like a man that is half the height of this other dude that is built like a barn and has, I don't know, muscles for ages and stuff like that. And the other dude is like a scrawny guy with martial arts. They are not going to win the fight, at least not in the spectacular way that is very cinematic. Like, they are not going to throw the barn over their shoulder, and they are not going to throw the barn on the ground and stuff. Physics do not work like this. A martial artist that is mismatched will be very strategic, hit and run, and not very cinematic. So they're going. Go.
A lot of that comes from Bullshido, which is what they call this martial arts practice of fake martial arts stuff, and it's very popular in martial arts dojos, where people have this like godlike respect for their sensei, and when they do like these practice fights and stuff like this, the sensei will show what they can do and do a kind of a practice bout, and people like exaggerate their like reactions and falling over from even just like the tiniest touch, and then when they go up to practice what they've learned, other people will go like and fall down when they get touched. So this exaggeration continues, and you have like a lot of fake martial arts where they're doing this like special like ninja touch, and they just touch someone here or amplify their chi, and of course chi doesn't exist,
Okay, that's magic though. I'm okay with that.
But people in reality think chi exists as a force, and people can channel it, and it doesn't. No.
Yeah.
Like whenever these people get involved in real fights, they get badly injured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what though? An experienced martial artist, and I'm saying that because once upon a time, way back when, I used to do taekwondo, and I uh, was training beyond the black belt. And our master said, and he was a very small guy, like he was my height, and he was pretty uh, terrible in the sense that he could strike terror into you. And the thing that he said was, if you are mismatched in a fight, first of all, you de-escalate, you try to leave, all of that. But if you can't, and you have to deal with the monster of a dude or something, especially to the ladies, he was a misogynist, but at least he was good preparing us for that sort of thing. He said, you are going to go for low hits that are devastating. So you're going to go for the kneecap. You're going to go for the ankle. You want to break something or at least make it feel like it broke so that you can live. So what I'm saying is they are not a martial artist that is mismatched will know that and will act accordingly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, they'll go for the vulnerable points. That's a good idea. That's the way to do a proper fight. Go for those bits. Don't go for the big flashy bit for attacks.
Yeah. He hated those, by the way. He had to teach them for tests and stuff, but he hated those moves. Like the more flowery, the more you got basically chewed out for using them in sparring. So
I mean, the spinning kicks and roundhouse punches look fantastic, but they're very easy to avoid.
Yeah,
especially flying kicks.
Born Identity movie had some kudos for their fighting style, that it was kept. Like the fighting style was designed to end fights quickly, quick moves, smaller moves, not the kind of big, flowery moves. I don't know if that regard for that movie holds up. I have no idea, but
okay,
yeah,
interesting. I was listening to an interview with Matt Damon and he mentioned the Born Identity films, and he said in that first Born Identity film, the guy who he was fighting was really experienced and was a martial artist, and he had no idea what he was doing. He'd just done some training, especially for the film, and he said to the martial artist that anytime I hit you, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I'm like untrained or whatever, I'll just give you a bottle of champagne anytime I accidentally hit you. And in the end, he had to give the guy like a couple of cases of champagne. And I don't know, he was a bit suspicious. Maybe the guy was leaning into it.
That's hilarious.
Getting himself hit, yes. And he said, look, I didn't even feel anything. Who cares?
Yeah. But hey, free champagne, expensive stuff too. I'm imagining. Why not?
Yes, exactly. So, okay, what other things are there? All right, something. Our Jay Scarborough. I always think his name is Sourdough, but it's Scarborough. Oh my god. He says, bunny rabbits don't like carrots. I mean, they don't. It's not they don't like carrots, but they don't really care about them. They'll eat them, but they don't really give a shit. Yeah, that's true. I've had bunnies myself, and they never think of carrots the way the way Bugs Bunny does. Anything is better than a carrot to a rabbit.
It must be more visually interesting. I wonder where the kid might have come from, some kind of real life, someone's pet rabbit or something they saw.
Yeah,
probably just more visually interesting than a piece of lettuce.
Hey, what's up, Doc? Yeah.
Yeah, they don't usually talk either, rabbits.
I was so disappointed in that.
Yeah.
What else did he say? Yeah, anytime someone goes in a rainstorm, they always get a cold, and people believe this. People, oh, you're in a rainstorm, oh, you're gonna catch a chill, and it's impossible because viruses don't exist in raindrops. That's just a fact. And cold is a virus. You can't catch it from a rain. Yeah, so yeah, you can't catch a chill from a raindrop. And I don't know why this idea has been created. Maybe we have, because okay, so cold symptoms and cold and flu symptoms are immune reactions. That's our immune system reacting, and that's what makes our noses runny and our eyes puffy and all this kind of stuff. Creates inflammation, creates the running nose, increases our temperature in order to defeat the invaders, which are the viruses. So maybe we have an immune reaction when we're in a rainstorm and we have a bit of a runny nose or something like that, and that convinces people that they catch a chill from that. But that's not going to last, obviously. But maybe that's where that myth comes from. I don't know. We should do an experiment, a Mythbusters thing.
Oh, yeah.
See whether we have an immune reaction from being in the rain too long. But yeah, you're not going to get sick from that.
This is off topic, but I also notice in the few anime I've watched, it's often like if there's rain coming down, you want to be with a girl you're attracted to walking home. Because apparently you instantly have to go and get in the shower and have your clothes washed. You can't just walk the couple blocks extra to your house. You'll end up at her place.
You have to go to their house, yeah.
Yeah, you have to go to their house. It's very urgent to get your clothes in the laundry and dry and get yourself in the shower.
And she will automatically do that. That's just the girl thing, yeah.
So
and
nice
you'll accidentally come out of the shower and she'll see you naked. That's just what happens.
I'm so glad life works that way. It's so awesome. I noticed Bravo mentioned vehicles blowing up, everything blowing up. That's a really
yeah. Oh my God, yeah. If that was true, the roads would be more exciting places, I guess.
It's true.
Or you're playing Grand Theft Auto. Was always happen. You hit something 3 times with your car and it explodes. But yeah, that was a big thing in the 80s in TV shows and movies. Died out a bit now, but it just became, and anything you hit it like a bicycle runs into a fire hydrant. Boom! I freaking love that. But you will literally see that kind of stuff.
So that's kind of gone away, you think, huh? Newer
It has. It's been mollified.
That's interesting. These things this vocabulary does change over time.
Yeah.
Alter, go away. I do remember a class moment where an old man, something crazy happened and this old guy was stuck in a barrel and rolled down a hill. And you see him in the background rolling down a hill and hitting a tree. He's just a guy in a barrel and it explodes.
Oh, that's precious.
Very funny.
I see here Inky Moondrop has something I want to say, because again, yes, perfect teeth, no matter how long you were imprisoned, homeless, survived the jungle, blah blah blah. Not only perfect teeth, but perfectly very clean hair.
That's a truth. True thing. Everybody had perfect teeth in the old films, especially in old times in history, especially if they're American. They had just perfect teeth.
Only the bad guys have bad teeth.
Yes, or British. Yes. It had nothing to do with the dentist association or dentists in whatever they are in America, encouraging people to have braces when they're kids. In the 20th century, nothing to do with that. It was just that they were genetically born with perfect teeth, and that's just how it is. Yeah, dentistry has nothing to do with it.
The only thing I am okay with is if the story takes place before the introduction of sugar in Europe, so before the 1500s, because anthropological finds have shown that before that, pretty much a vast majority of people had a full set of pretty perfect teeth. Not in the sense that they were very straight or anything, but they were not they were not spoiled. They had not gone bad. So there
Full
is
of
that.
holes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's
Oh,
say after the Industrial Revolution, not even the Industrial Revolution, after farming started to be a thing where people started to eat grains, teeth started to get worn down a lot more because they're harder things to eat.
Yeah.
So, and they can judge where just by teeth from when someone existed
Mm-hmm.
because of the kind of things that they would be eating would affect teeth in different ways. So
Yeah.
cavities from sugar or worn down teeth from harder things that they're eating. So yeah, teeth. Okay, so yeah. What are some of the other things people bring up? Firebomb, gas tank, yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's bravos. Oh, Fallopian Crusader says he gets a good chuckle from skydivers having these little chats and all sorts of things and fights and all this in the air while they're free falling before they deploy the chute. You don't have enough time for any of that. It's very, very quick. I mean, you can do a bit of that, but you can't hear anything for goodness sake. The air is rushing past your ears and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, you can't really talk, and you can't really do that much chatting and maneuvers and all this because there's very little time in most skydives. So yeah, that's a big thing. Even the super high ones, you don't have that much time.
Yeah. Can I also like drop in? Hasn't do much to do with skydiving, but explosions in space that have sound and they behave like on Earth, although or fire in space. Again, same thing. Whereas,
huge fireballs rolling out.
yeah, no.
Well, yeah, so space lacks everything.
Atmosphere and gravity the way that we know it here.
So yeah, one of the big, especially in the frickin' Lucasfilms, like in the early Star Wars, in the first Star Wars when it was first done, they had a really good explosion in that the Death Star blows up and you see like glittery things and it's going out. So that's somewhat plausible. But in the later versions and the edits, you've got like the shockwave that happens around it, and there's no shockwave because there's no space. There's nothing to make a shockwave out of. So yeah, it's just gonna doesn't happen. I mean, you do get shockwaves if there's a lot of gas around something, but if it's just in space and there's nothing around it, you're not going to have this great big ring kind of thing, and that's what they have in all the space things now. So yeah, that's just not what's going to happen. Yeah, sound, that's another thing. Like even for spaceships flying past you, they're not going to go whoa like this because there's no atmosphere. Yeah. You could like imagine maybe over your headset there's sound like from the radiation the thing emits, but even then, why would it? So yeah, it's no atmosphere, no sound. There's that. What
I mean, of course, they're not trying to capture reality. Like often, it's not even the intention to capture reality. These things. It is interesting.
Yeah.
Standardized.
Stylized stuff. I mean, lasers don't make a sound, as we know that. I mean, lasers could. It's funny enough. Lasers could make a sound if a laser is powerful enough to destroy like a tank or something like that. Like that would be we haven't got lasers like that. Really? I mean, outside the scientific world, that would be massively powerful. They could make sound because they would ionize the air. Any water in the air would explode when that thing touched it. So they would like make sounds, but not like pew pew. It would be a kind of crackling, like thumping, cracking noise, It'd be very, very different from what we normally see in the movies. And lasers don't glow along the length unless it's lighting something. So if you had a powerful enough laser to destroy a tank, for example, it would only be glowing from, I don't know if there was water vapor in that particular area or like the gas from the thing that had destroyed. So it wouldn't be like a solid column of light. It would only be along the portions of the laser that had directly interacted with the thing that it had destroyed. So that's pretty interesting. I mean, you could make a really interesting version of a laser battle by thinking about what it would really do.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the version we have in the movies, because we don't have lasers that can do that. And another thing about lasers is in the movies and even in games and stuff, we have this idea that you basically have unlimited shots because it's just electricity, it's just energy that shoots the thing. But in reality, lasers use up a crap load of energy, and the electrically powered lasers, that uses up. You have to have a huge power pack, like a ship, like the engine on a ship or a nuclear reactor on, some kind of massive vessel to give it that much power. And even those lasers are barely powerful enough to destroy a missile. They're really low powered. The big, powerful enough lasers that will destroy like a rocket are chemical lasers, which take huge amount of chemicals that react and produce this light that is doped and turned into like a laser beam, and you can only get like a couple of shots out of that, and then it's done. Like all these vats of chemicals that reacted, it's only like a couple of shots, and once they do a shot, it's not like they can like turn it off and then just go pew pew and then just keep going. It's like once the chemicals reacting, you can't stop them reacting. So you're using up all your shots in that go. So the reality of lasers is very different from the sci-fi version, which is fascinating to me anyway, because I'm like a nerd about that kind of stuff. I really am a super nerd. So we're gonna finish up now, I suppose. Maybe you guys can add any things that you want to talk about. I don't know, wounds maybe, Tance. That's your speciality.
Yeah. Wounds. Some are not as bloody as they are shown to be, and others are a lot bloodier, ironically. So and the whole idea that if you bleed slowly, it's not dangerous. That again is false, because the danger definitely, like if you have an arterial bleed, it is very dangerous. But the reason for that is that it can bleed out very quickly before you can stop the bleeding. So the real danger is not if it is a slow bleed or per se or not, but how easily and quickly you can stop the bleeding. That's the danger. You can have they show like the hero with the entire, like the wound is left to bleed out basically, so they have a whole like a cascade of blood coming down their bicep that is very like bicepy. And that's like you are making yourself weak every second that passes, because your blood pressure is dropping. Why are you leaving that thing like that? Yeah. So there's that.
Okay, so bloody wounds. This is the kind of thing. I mean, this is all right. So the myth about defloration. I mean, people's first time having sex.
Okay.
Always, we have to have the hymen being pierced, like the freshness cylinder's blood.
Yeah.
Which is, that can happen to some people. But that's a rare condition when they have like a ceiling hymen. That can be dangerous.
Or it is an indication that the guy has not waited enough. I cannot say it differently, and has not been gentle enough. So if you cause the lady to bleed, or at least bleed that it so much that it shows on the sheets, you are lousy.
Yeah. For most women, the hymen is just a bit of extra flesh around the vagina. It's not like a huge thing. And yeah, like if someone's too rough or they don't wait and lubricate the parts enough, these things can get tears, but it's not like something that has to happen in order for the act to have and people have injuries because obviously they're inexperienced and they don't know much about sex. So that's why people are sore the first time, but it's not something that is inevitable. And we have myths surrounding the whole phrase "popped my cherry." It's disgusting. I fucking hate that phrase because that's based on that myth.
And the thing is that people don't realize that this kind of bleeding that they expect in the first time, it can happen at any time, no matter how many times you have had sex, if it is rough enough, I suppose, or just right, I guess. It's not a good indication. It's an F. Okay, let's put it that way.
Yes. Yeah. Why should you injure someone there? I mean, for goodness sake. Well, we should end on a happier note than sexual injuries.
Yeah.
Dear. Let's see. Are there any other points we can bring up?
What about slow motion in space?
Oh yeah.
What do you mean slow motion in space?
Like this is maybe not quite on topic, but it's just a convention. This is my understanding anyway, that in media people move in slow motion in 0G.
Oh yeah.
And when they made Apollo 13, see, if I don't get knowledge from movies, I'm just getting it from behind the scenes material on movies. But they tried to do it not in slow motion in the movie Apollo 13 because it was more realistic. This is my memory of this anyway. But it looked wrong. They're like, it just looks weird.
The expectations were different.
Yeah. It's just like that's the visual language of film, like when you're in 0G slowly. I don't know if I'm missing aspects of this, like why astronaut.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it has a sort of a slowness to it. Yeah, and we really focus on the fact that there is 0G because of that slowness, and maybe that was popularized by 2001: A Space Odyssey, maybe. In order to emphasize it.
Could even have been like the first footage from space, astronauts on the moon that looked like it was slow motion, but that was for it wasn't slow motion, it was...
Well, they were on the moon.
Yeah.
Jumping away. Also, like the footage from Skylab, those astronauts, I think, doing the early kind of experiments and things like that, like spinning pens and things like that when they're actually on the space station. And they would have done that as a way to show that they're in space and wow, this is unusual, this is weird. And they would have done sort of slower things in order to actually have it captured and emphasized.
Right.
So yeah, that would have had some sort of basis in reality, but yeah, obviously if there's no gravity, you're going to move at whatever speed you want because there's no resistance and probably going to be faster, but you're going to have to... You should slow yourself down because the faster you move, the harder it is to control yourself, and you'll end up, bumping into something and injuring yourself. So perhaps there is a logic to it. If you're if you're in a space station, there's no gravity. Well, what do we call it now? We call it microgravity. You push yourself off from a bulkhead, and you're going across the cabin to the other side. You don't want to do that super fast, because if you do,
Right.
you're gonna have to hit the other side, and you don't want to kill yourself.
Mhm.
So yeah, so there is a bit of a logic to it. Say if you're flying away into space, if you push off from a spaceship, you got a tether attached to you. When you reach that tether, it's gonna really create a lot of force. So, and maybe injure or tear your suit. So
Yeah,
it's a good idea to be a bit slower than normal.
probably. Very
Yeah.
likely.
Physics is a bitch, guys.
Oh yeah.
It'll bite you in the ass. And then rip
Well, when
it
we go
open.
up, Quackcast 700, I think it is, we're going up. So we'll have to remember all this.
Oh yeah. So are we going up in Elon Musk's spaceship or the
No.
Amazon guy?
Maybe the
Yeah.
Musk or the
Who dare
Bezos.
go?
We're not sure. Yeah, we'll see who's hated less.
Yeah.
Let's pay for the Roscosmos. We'll go to wherever it is in Russia and launch ourselves into space in a Soyuz. Oh dear. I've always wanted to go up in a Soyuz capsule.
Not me.
No, me neither.
I'll be laughing at you from the Roscosmos while you guys are stuck in the Blue Origin or
I like
Elon Musk.
I like to be as close to the ground as possible at all times.
Yes. Chance likes to not even. She likes to lie down on the ground. If she
Yeah.
Broadcasting now from under the ground.
Exactly.
That's right.
I burrow and I stay there. But yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We've got to end this Quackcast. We can't go on forever, even though we'd really like to and just talk about these things. I've got heaps of these things. But,
Yeah.
we'll cut it short. Thank you very much for listening to Quackcast number 650. We've been the Quackcast team, the Drunkduck Quackcast team, the Duckweb Comics, all these names. And watch our video to hear us talk about or see us talk about spies.
Yay.
So that's what we didn't mention that in
No.
this, in the vocal Quackcast. So bye bye everyone. See you
Bye.
next week.
Bye.